Good morning, evening, or even afternoon. Welcome back to another excursion into the unknown, into the vaguely different darkness of the far future. Today I will not be beating around the bush for neither with the main character of today's video. He is notorious for being stern, stone-faced, and not an individual of a sunny disposition. He is Rogal Dorn, Praetorian of Terra, Primarch of the 7th Legion Imperial Fists, 7th Found Son, defiant and unyielding. Not much is known of Rogal Dorn's early life. As the Primarchs were split up, Dorn ended up on the tidally locked world of Inuit. This means that one side of the planet always faces the sun, and the other always faces away from the sun. This made one side a searing hellscape, and the other side a frozen hellscape. In spite of this, the planet retained a great deal of technology from before the Age of Strife, and maintained a few orbital shipyards and ships capable of warp travel. The people of Inuit were largely nomadic, organized into houses, kind of like the ones in fiction like Game of Thrones. Rogal was, as his name suggests, found and raised by the House of Dorn, and was considered a grandson of sorts to the leader of House Dorn. As he neared adulthood, Rogal eventually rose to lead House Dorn, and that Inuit, and shortly thereafter the entire cluster of nearby star systems. Being crowned Emperor of a star-spanning empire to rival the size even of Ultramar, he also exerted great effort to repair an enormous mobile star fortress in Inuit's orbit, named the Phalanx. A few decades later, the Great Crusade reached the Inuit cluster, and Rogal Dorn was finally introduced to his father, the Emperor of Mankind. The rest, as they say, is history. Dorn fought bravely in the Great Crusade, conquering hundreds, if not thousands, of worlds in the name of humanity and his father's imperial truth. As the Emperor decreed Horus to be War Master and withdrew to Terra, he brought Rogal Dorn along with him to fortify and upgrade humanity's homeworld, in case some foe should ever try to lay siege to it. As if that could ever happen. Later, as half of the Emperor's sons rebelled to the shock and surprise of everyone, Dorn kept working on his defenses, improving them more and more, until the fateful day when the Alpha Legion attacked. Alpharius himself tried to turn the outer defenses of the Sol system on the Loyalist forces, but failed, as Dorn made a masterful feint by pretending to leave the system with most of his fleet. As Alpharius neared triumph, the Phalanx and thousands of other vessels pulled up on the ironically named Hydra Station. Alpharius and Dorn fought, briefly but fiercely, and in the end Alpharius lay dead at Dorn's feet. As the Solar War began in earnest, Dorn stood shoulder to shoulder with his brothers Sanguinis and Jagatai Khan, commanding the spheres of defense with a cold, calculated fury. Months came and went, and the traitors drew near, first making planetfall, then breaching the first wall, then the second, and then the third. On and on, until the very end. Though grinding the traitors down, making them pay dearly for every single inch of ground, they still came on, their hordes endless and their guns mighty. As the end approaches, Rogal Dorn goes with his father to teleport onto the Vengeful Spirit, flagship of the traitor forces, to end the War Master once and for all. But as the migraine-inducing flash of the teleport flare dies out, the Praetorian of Terra does not find himself aboard the Vengeful Spirit, but rather all alone, amidst sand dunes as far as the eye can see. Rogal Dorn spends a century in the Yellow Desert until he finally concedes that there is no way out of it. After a century, he also believes that there is no way into it either. Although he is in it, which suggests that this is untrue. A small fact to cling to. He came here. He was brought here. There must have been a way in once. Unless he has always been here. After a century, that starts to feel like the truth. He meticulously orders the facts he can be certain of. Every day he collates the available facts. Every day for a century. There are fewer and fewer of them. The sun rusts them away. He is here. Fact. The desert is endless and the sunlight unrelenting. Fact. Something, technological or metaphysical, intercepted his teleport pattern and diverted him to this wasteland. Fact. None of those who departed with him are here. Fact. This is not the target principle, the vengeful spirit. Fact. But it is a trap. Fact. He is alone. Fact. He knows exactly who he is. Fact. I am Rogal Dorn, Praetorian of Terra, Primarch of the 7th Legion Imperial Fists, 7th Found Son, defiant and unyielding, says Rogal Dorn to the hot and empty desert air. The desert is boundless, a soft sea of yellow sand, the color of his legion's plate. The sky is a hot, white haze, the color of his hair. There is no sun, except that everything is sunlit. There is a breeze, parched and dry, that comes intermittently and lifts the soft sand from the crests of the dunes in horse-tailed plumes to make new dunes nearby, grain by grain. There are walls, ancient stone walls, faded pink and bleached by light. They are too high to climb, and they serve no purpose he can identify, for they keep nothing in and nothing out, and merely stand, crossing the dunes in forking geometric lines. There are walls either side of him, suggesting, but never admitting, that he is caught in some gargantuan labyrinth. He tries, and fails, to climb them. He listens at them, hoping to detect sounds from the other side. But he does not. Some days he ascends to the top of the highest dunes, and from there, as the breeze lifts the sand around his feet, he can almost see over them. Almost. Enough to see the odd, angled lines and their arrangement, and the fact that, beyond them, lie more dunes, and other walls, and more dunes. Fact. Every day, for a century, he orders the facts he can be certain of. He is here, and no one else is. Fact. He is alone. Fact. His pattern was diverted. Fact. This is not the target principle, the vengeful spirit. Fact. It's a trap. Fact. The desert is endless and there is no way out. Fact. There is no way in. Perhaps. He knows exactly who he is. Fact. I am Rogal Dorn, Praetorian of Terra, Primarch of the 7th Legion Imperial Fists, 7th Found Son, defiant and unyielding, says Rogal Dorn. The bodies are here. They are all long dead, and they are all his sons. They are scattered across the dunes and piled up against the bases of the walls for kilometers. They wear the yellow plate of the 7th Legion Astartes Imperial Fists, but they have been here so long that only dry white bones reside inside them, and the plate is abraded by breeze and sand, so all numerals and identifier markings are worn away. He doesn't know who they were, except that they were once Imperial Fists. They may or may not be the men who formed the company he left with. He can't be sure. Those men, hand-picked, may be here, but if they are, why were they long dead when he arrived? And who are all the others? There are far, far more than a company strength of men scattered across the dunes. There are thousands, tens of thousands. Yellow plate is piled like metal shingle along the foot of the walls. Many times he attempts to count them, to reach an accurate number which he can add to his list of facts, but he always loses count. Some days after 10,000, some days after 20, for there are so many, and it is impossible to know where he started counting and where he has finished. He tries to mark them with his sword as he counts, cutting a notch in each pauldron. That scrupulous method gives him a figure of 37,409, before he loses count and forgets if he has notched a pauldron or not. Besides, his sword edge is beginning to blunt, and he is weary, and there are still so many more than those he has already counted. Unsure, he starts again. He orders the available facts. There are very many dead, and the desert is endless. Fact. The walls are very slightly too high. Fact. There is no sun, but the light neither rises nor sets. Fact. It is slightly cooler in the shadow of the walls. Fact. There is no way out. Fact. There is no way in. Is that a fact? I am Rogal Dorn, Praetorian, Primarch of the Imperial Fists, 7th found son. Defiant and unyielding, says Rogal Dorn. The desert is yellow, the light is white. The walls are very slightly too high. He sits in the cool shadows day after day, amid the litter of yellow armor, and recites the available facts to himself. His sword is notched. He is alone. The breeze lifts feathers of sands from the ridges of the dunes, like spindrift from the sea. There is no way out. This is a trap. Fact. I am Rogal Dorn. I am Rogal Dorn, Primarch of the Imperial Fists, 7th found son, defiant and unyielding, says Rogal Dorn. Later that century, the rusting brown cast of the desert and the walls and the sky have grown darker still. It is red. Everything and everywhere is red, like blood, the color of blood, scarlet out in the sunlight across the endless dunes, and crimson, madder and orchil hues in the darker shadows of the wall. He remembers sometimes, longing for blood, the fire of blood, the gush of blood, the physicality of blood. He wanted that simplicity. He wanted to fight in a blood fight, spilling blood close up, not fight with his mind from a distance. He wanted to put the mental fight aside, give up the crippling, endless puzzle of war, the never-ending facts and data, and just be a man with a sword. Just give up. Stop thinking and give in. Just fight mindlessly. Just be free. Just kill and fight for blood. For blood. The color of this desert. Just blood for the sake of blood. Simple. Released. Unthinking. Just blood. Blood for... How long ago was that? Who was there? Does it matter? Which side was he on? He tries to order the available facts. He was a warrior who just wanted to kill. They wouldn't let him. They wanted him to think. They wanted him to decide everything. They wanted him to order the available facts because they said he was good at it. He didn't want to decide. He didn't want to have to make those decisions. It was killing him. He never told anyone that. He wanted to stop and make somebody else decide, make somebody else order the available facts. All he wanted to do was go to the walls and forget it all and fight. A man with a sword. Just fight. No thought, no decisions. Just fight. Mindlessly. Free. The way the others did. Just fight. Spill blood. That's all. Just blood. Blood for the... Just give up. I am Rogal Dorn, defiant, says Rogal Dorn. Just give in. I am Rogal Dorn, says Rogal Dorn, sitting in the crimson shadow under the red wall. Are you even that? Were you ever? Just give up. I am Rogal, says Rogal. Not even that. Don't think. That's all you really wanted, isn't it? Not to have to think anymore. You can do that here, in the shadow of the wall. Just give up. Give in. He orders the available facts. Aye, he says. Is there anything he's certain of any longer? All the facts have rusted, and all the thoughts have gone. There is only blood. That's all he really wanted. Give in to it. Aye, he says. Just blood. Say it. Aye. Say it. Say blood, the thing you wanted. Blood, he says softly, soft as the flecks of the rust the dry breeze lifts in horsetail plumes from the ridges of the dunes. Say it again. Blood. Who is the blood for? For... Say it. Who is the blood for? Blood for the... Blood for whom? He's waiting for you. You just have to say it. Blood for the blood god. In the true timeline, Dorn almost did crack in this excerpt. So close, yet so far. In this alteration of said timeline, Khorne manages to grip onto Dorn ever so slightly, just releasing the pressure of wanting to be a simple-minded warrior that was already present. And yeah, this goofy stick figure is me. I used it in a fucking meme I made the night before writing this, and I kinda liked it. Yeah, I know Paul is bad at stuff, has one too. Yes, I know his looks better. Yes, I'm doing it anyway. As Sanguinius perishes in the throne room of the vengeful spirit, slaughtered by Horus Lupercal, the psychic reaction from that event spreads out and for a while causes all the Blood Angels to lose all control of themselves in the first ever account of Black Rage. On its way down from orbit, that wave is met by a massive psychic explosion that happens deep inside the Sanctum Imperialis. As the sons of Sanguinius are in despair from the death of their father, lashing out at anyone and anything they can, the sons of Dorn are corrupted in a similar event. Sigismund, Fafnir Ran, and tens of thousands of other Imperial fists are overwhelmed by pure rage and hatred towards everything, as an enormous horned beast wearing shreds of golden armor rises in the ruins of a wall bastion. Unleashing a monstrous bellow, the demon starts rampaging through the Imperials and traitors alike, cutting through dozens in each stroke of his twisted, corrupted chainsword. And he is not alone. Sigismund was perhaps the finest swordfighter in all the legions. Whether he'd be more or less of an efficient butcher when overcome by rage is hard to say, but I don't imagine it'd slow him down much. White Scars, Blood Angels, and Imperial Fists all fall in their thousands. The surviving mortal troops in their hundreds of thousands. Even the mighty talons of the Emperor, the Custodes, are slaughtered to the man. First Captain Ral Euron of the Blood Angels, the new Archaemus of the Huskarls, Shiban Khan of the White Scars, Nasir Amit, also known as the Flesh Terror, Ascalon of the Sanguinary Guard. There's seemingly no end to the deaths of invaluable leaders of the remaining legions, many cut down by Dorn and Sigismund themselves. The sole fighter left on Terra that may have a chance to stop the Khornate Demon Prince's rampage is Vulcan, Primarch of the Salamanders. He even gets his chance to find out, as the gates to the throne room are crumpled up and tossed aside as if they were but pieces of paper. The demon that once was Rogal Dorn roars and charges Vulcan. The Lord of Drakes is a masterful fighter, wielding his massive Thunderhammer Dawnbreaker, but it's not enough. And he is promptly torn to shreds. Of course, being a perpetual, this wouldn't last. But Dorn either doesn't care or is too overcome by rage to remember. Quickly swatting away the last of the Custodian Guard, he promptly renders the poor Malcador the Sigillite, who's been keeping the Golden Throne warm for his buddy Imps, into a fine red mist. At this point, Malcador's early demise matters little in the grand scheme of things. The old man deserved better, but seeing as Horus may be rapping on death's door momentarily, the only actual consequence of this is that demons have like 10 minutes of unlimited playtime before Horus dies, which drags Terra out of the warp like a beach ball held underwater. As Dorn is not aboard the vengeful spirit to find the battered remains of his father, that job falls to Captain General Constantine Valdor, who, upon coming back to the surface, finds a bloodbath. Fending off Imperial fists on their way to the Golden Throne, Valdor and his retinue hold out until the relief fleet of thousands of vessels, led by Guilliman, make planetfall. The traitors are in full retreat, and the Blood Angels are coming down from their rage trip, leaving only the Imperial fists as the last combatants of the, traitor side. Many have enough sense to draw back alongside their other traitor cousins, but a large portion of the legions stand their ground and die. As Ultramarines' gunships make strafing runs, Space Wolves' Terminators teleport in, and Lionel Johnson take to the field, the Imperial fists die. They're cut down in droves, but make sure to take many of their loyal brethren with them on their way out. Between a barrage of big guns, and Valdor, Russ, and the Lion fighting him together, the demon Primarch, Rogal Dorn, is also brought down. As dawn breaks on Terra, the casualties are so much worse than anything we can imagine. The Imperium was wounded in the true timeline, but here it's straight up crippled. As the sons of the Emperor gather around their mostly lifeless father, they're deflated. Though the heresy was technically won, it doesn't feel like it. Russ and the Lion both take off almost immediately to hound the traitor retreat, but it's pretty half-hearted. Funnily, the Fist's fleet that was hiding around Jupiter was far enough away from their father's demonic emergence to not be affected too badly, so the hundreds of warships of the Armada remained loyal. Eventually, Alexis Pollux and his contingent of Fists also reached Terra, and is made commander of the remaining Imperial Fists. The loyal ones, anyway. He pledges to find and end any and all Fists still overcome by Khorne's influence and end them once and for all. Deep within the warp, souls linger. Souls of demon primarchs, waiting for their time to come, to once again unleash their fury and hatred upon the galaxy, waiting for their respawn timers to tick to zero. Khorne's two favored demons aren't patient, but they're not exactly conscious. Even though Dorn is now a ravenous berserker bound to Khorne's will, he still possesses more self-awareness than poor Angron. It matters little. They'll both have their time to shine again. Now having two legions and two Primarchs sworn to Khorne, there is an imbalance between the Chaos Gods. The other three would be rather jealous of the Blood God, which likely would lead to the Traitor Legion civil war that happened in the couple millennia following the end of the heresy, even more devastating for all involved. In the civil war, we'd see Rogal Dorn and Angron work closely together, likely with both making the World Eater's Gloriana-class battleship the Conqueror their shared flagship, seeing as the Imperial Fist's fleet is still under Loyalist control. This also means that the greatest duo of all time, Sigismund and Karn the Betrayer, are reunited and fight side by side. The psychic rage burst of Dorn's initial rebirth into demonhood would eventually wane, leaving the still chaos-corrupted Imperial Fists as more level-headed Khorne Berserker as opposed to their World Eater brethren. Eventually, Abaddon would start uniting the various warbands of all traitor legions into the Black Legion. But notably in this timeline, Abaddon would have Sigismund as one of his most trusted lieutenants. Whether he convinces Karn and Dorn to join the Black Legion too, or he and his berserkers split up from the rest is up in the air, but not too consequential. In the true timeline, upon leaving the Eye of Terror, Abaddon's nascent Black Legion was met by the Black Templars, who'd been sitting in the Cadia system, waiting for them for centuries. As Sigismund and his former Templar brethren are now on the side of Chaos, I don't see anyone waiting for them, leaving Abaddon with free reins to start plundering the Imperium right away. The Black Crusades would also meet with far greater success, having tens of thousands more Marines, and potentially not just one, but two Demon Primarchs along for the ride. This also means that the time frame of the Crusades would be set earlier, with the fall of Cadia, which triggers the Cicatrix Maledictum to open and split the Imperium in half, also happening several centuries earlier than in our own universe. We know Belisarius Cawl had the Armor of Fate and was ready to launch his Primaris a long time before he helped resurrect Guilliman, so I believe our favorite Boy Scout would still be resurrected in the immediate aftermath of the Cicatrix Maledictum opening. This also applies to the Lion, who awoke when he was needed. He is needed earlier here, so he wakes up earlier. Good God, I wish I had that ability in my life too. Anyway, whether this impacts the return of other Primarchs too remains to be seen. We can be pretty sure Leman Russ is bound to come back in the near future, but exactly how is, for now, a mystery. By the time of M42, Abaddon and his cronies would have established an entire empire in the half of the galaxy covered in the shadow from the Astronomicon. If he wants to really be a petty bitch, he could call the capital of this empire Terra Secundus or something like that. That'd be pretty hilarious. As we know, there is only one quote-unquote safe way through the warp storm that separates Imperium Sanctus and Imperium Nihilus. That passage is the Nakmund Gauntlet. Today it is the focal point of the ongoing narrative, and it would just be more important here. War in the Nakmund Gauntlet in this timeline is hell. Two empires of essentially equal size are waging war through two connected star systems that would be even more fortified than Terra during the Heresy. There are of course raiding parties going on both sides, moving through the barrier using temporary passages or just going through the storm itself. There are also Imperial holdouts in Nihilus, but these would be few and far between, and more falling by the day. Entire Space Marine chapters are wiped out as all the systems that supplies and armors them are either razed to the ground or conquered by the Black Legion and their allies. One of the most well-known quotes from 40k is that there is no peace amongst the stars, there is only war. This rings even truer in this timeline, as the battle for the Nakmund Gauntlet meets its end. Those of you who read the Arcs of Omen books that led up to 10th edition are probably thinking that the spontaneous corruption of the Imperial Fists seemed familiar. And you wouldn't be wrong. I was inspired by the event where Angron did exactly the same thing to every living being in the system he was in, essentially instantly winning the battle for Abaddon. Here, Abaddon angles his two Khorne Primarchs towards the Nakmund Gauntlet, confident that he has finally amassed enough forces, not only to break through the gauntlet, but to establish a stable beachhead and keep going. Through Angron's spontaneous rage explosion, paired with a naval force to make the Indomitus Crusade blush, the Chaos forces smash through the gauntlet after centuries of protracted warfare. Gilman and the Lion are taken aback at the news and scramble everyone and everything they can to try to contain the invasion, leaving themselves exposed to various Xenos forces simultaneously. All around, the Imperium bleeds. Over the course of the following years, the two empires fight battle after battle, most of which are lost by the Imperium. Sangua Terra is first to fall, then the Forge World of Agrippina, then Okomaya, on and on. The spearhead drives deeper and deeper into the Imperium. Before long, the armies of the War Master are once again at Terra's doorstep. In the true timeline, Abaddon has been quite insistent on not repeating his father's mistakes and charging right for Terra. But the circumstances that fostered that doctrine, like leading a considerably smaller force and still having to face the entire Imperium, haven't occurred here. So now, having a larger force and already controlling half the galaxy, the plan of taking Terra is back on the table. So charge Terra is what he does. We can't forget that the Emperor is still alive, at least somewhat, and his psychic powers are the strongest in the galaxy, even when bound to the throne. I believe that if he wanted or needed to, he could call back all the remaining loyalist Primarchs. Obviously, how the rest of the loyal ones do return is pure guesswork in the true timeline, but in this one, let's just make something up. Russ is called back from seeking the Tree of Life in the Warp, following an aspect of the Emperor's spirit to an exit back to Terra. Essentially the same happens to Corvus Corax, who returns to Terra as an almost demonic bird hybrid after stalking Lorgar in the Warp for millennia. Jaghatai Khan is brought out of Komorra and brings a small army of Drukhari loyal to him back alongside him. Lastly, the Emperor gives the Salamanders chapter visions of where the remaining lost relics of Vulcan are, and somehow their Primarch returns from that happening. Additionally, all other forces available are called back to the Sol system to brace for the final fight. Millions of Titans, Knights and Astartes in their tens of millions, and immeasurable numbers of mortal troops and Mechanicus assets, along with enough ships to create a system-wide traffic jam. Meanwhile, in the room for the Chaos Armada is War Master Abaddon, Lorgar Aurelian of the Wordbearers, Fulgrim of the Emperor's Children, Angron of the World Eaters, Rogal Dorn of the Imperial Fists, Mortarion of the Death Guard, Perturabo of the Iron Warriors, Huron Blackheart of the Red Corsairs, Vashtor the Archifane, and Be'lakor the First Damned. Perturabo, for one, is silently snickering in the corner, being visibly smug about Dorn's fall, at least until Abaddon gives him the dubious honor of being the linchpin in the plan to land forces on Terra. The plan is insane, but it needs to be. A fleet-sized battering ram consisting of 3 Gloriana-class vessels will punch through anything in their way and execute what's essentially a controlled crash straight into the shields of the Imperial Palace, and then empty their holds of Chaos Space Marines, Knights, and Arch Mechanicum constructs into the streets of the Palace cityscape. Perturabo's so-called honor is to make sure the battering ram arrives at its destination relatively unharmed, using his own ships as shields, soaking up all major firepower headed for the payload. Though to give the plan as high a chance at success as possible, a massive attack spearheaded by the Vengeful Spirit will precede the actual main thrust to distract as many defending ships as possible. Even before the Endurance, the Magna Tyrannis and the Conqueror smash into the areas surrounding the Lion's Gate in the Imperial Palace of Terra, the strongest psychers of the galaxy would be sensing that the galaxy is seemingly, somehow, coming to an end. As the battle for the Sol system begins, the ever-present pressure of demons trying to break through the webway portal to Terra suddenly and inexplicably stops. Even the rotting corpse of the Emperor can't immediately understand why, and carefully allows the gate to open. Through the webway, covered in gore and ichor, stride a pair of ornate Eldar Wraith Knights, followed by none other than Eldrad Ulthuan. "We have come to stand with you against the end of all things. Though you may abhor my kind, I ask you to allow us to assist," Eldrad says to the pile of skin and bones atop the Golden Throne. The Emperor agrees, and signals telepathically to his sons that the Eldari are to be allowed free passage on Terra. Thus, a continuous column of various infantry, walkers, and tanks from all paths of the Eldar species stream through the webway gate. They arrive in their millions, and Gilliman quietly suggests to his brother, the Lion, that this may in fact be all the Eldar left in the galaxy. Whether or not he's right, I'll leave up to your own headcanon. As billions perish in the void between planets, and Mars is blockaded and invaded, 3 massive ships plummet through the Terran atmosphere and hit the ground with atomic force. Every single soldier, warrior, and civilian within a kilometer of the impact sites disappear. They don't even have time to actually die, they simply cease to be. The same goes for many of those aboard the vessels themselves, but the reinforced shields and internal anti-gravity fields make sure most of them are fit to fight immediately upon touchdown. Now that's what they do. Explosives blow open the hulls of the enormous ships, and right away, Marines, combat automata, knights, and titans stream out, attacking anything and everything in their path. The very elite of the legions are among them, including all the demon primarchs. I'm quickly running out of time, so we'll gloss over the specifics of the Second Battle of Terra, but imagine like 6 full novels of small perspectives of the battle, nuanced portrayals of the villains, and interesting character development. Instead, we'll skip straight towards the end of the battle. Several Primarchs on both sides have been killed. The Void War is still ongoing, but more attacking troops are being landed every day. With Fulgrim, Mortarion, Magnus the Red, Angron, and Rogal Dorn in their demon forms fighting together, the defending loyal Primarchs don't last long. Gilliman manages to plunge the sword of the Emperor into Mortarion's chest with the help of the returned Constantine Valdor, deleting the giant moth's soul permanently. As the fight finishes, with all the defending Primarchs either dead or unable to stop him, Rogal Dorn, for the second time in his demonic life, tears open the doors to the Imperial throne room and charges towards the remains of his father. Halfway through the room, he finds himself unable to move, psychic powers preventing him from advancing, until Magnus exerts his own power to undo the psychic chains of the Emperor. Being a far weaker psyker than his father, Magnus accomplishes little, at least initially. The 4 gods of the Chaos Pantheon are, of course, watching the unfolding battle like it's a fucking Super Bowl, and Tzeentch decides to give his own favorite player a little bit of a boost. Now empowered, Magnus actually manages, through great effort, to almost counter the Emperor's psychic powers. Through his blood-crazed mind, Rogal Dorn realizes it won't last long, and forces himself forward step by step. The Emperor puts all his power into restraining the former Praetorian, and now just a few steps away from the throne, Dorn is once again halted. As the demon despairs and howls, something blurs past him, and before the Emperor can shift his psychic focus, Abaddon the Despoiler punches his demon blade, directly the end of empires, into the chest of the Emperor. A bright flash of light explodes from the chest, as the Chaos Gods drag Terra into the depths of the warp. And that's kinda it. What comes next is impossible to say. Maybe the warp and real space become one. Maybe the entire galaxy is dragged into the warp. Or maybe all life in the galaxy dies out over the coming years, and the Chaos Gods starve to death, so to say. All I know is that I wouldn't want Rogal Dorn to fall to chaos. Making a scenario with a more abstract ending was a breath of fresh air, especially because literally anything can happen after the Emperor dies. What do you think would happen if the Emperor actually did die? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe to stay up to date on all the scenarios still to come. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Goodbye, and stay safe out there.